Alright, can folks online hear us okay? Just to do a double check.
Yes, I can hear you.
Everyone that we have online, could y'all go into the chat and just put who you're with and your contact information? That way we can sign you in and be able to relay information to you as we write up our Q&A sheet, stuff like that.
It's the PowerPoint again. Thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah, so, morning, everyone. I'm Connor Beard. I'm the Public Works Operations Manager. I elected to be the project manager of this situation. Beside me, I've got Mel Yema. She's our community development director, and then to my left is Shay Early, the public works director. And this will be the team for Crescent View's Roundabout project. We just wanted to do this meeting to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions, familiarize yourself with not only us, but the project, to make sure this is, in everybody's wheelhouse, and we can answer anything that comes up. So just kind of wanted to go over the scope of the project. We're looking to advance from our conceptual design here, which is Troy's 5-leg roundabout and single lane at the Red Lady intersection. This scope is looking to take us to 60%. It's a partnership with the Gunnison Watershed School District. They will be splitting the bill with us. This is also a requirement based on their access permit with CDOT. Scope of work is conducting a SUE, need y'all to evaluate utility conflicts, conduct our surveys. We need to develop right-of-way boundaries, property exhibits. Again, preparing 60% designs. We'll also need some coordination with public input. We have a very outspoken group of individuals in this town.
It's a big change for the community. It's a circle and a square town. So the transportation plan really did a lot of the work of getting us to this point of the roundabouts happening. If maybe you were involved, but this has been like a decade long discussion in this town. But I do think there will be some hand holding of just navigating the community through this change around just really clear communication and then some sort of level of input at 30% design, whether that's like helping around what does the middle of it look like or that sort of stuff. But I think mostly communications and education on it's safe, it's happening, here's why it's a good thing.
Speaking to the safety, that is the main impetus of this project. It's not only decreasing traffic congestion, but also decreasing speeds coming into the town, hence the single lane. We're really trying to constrict people as they come into town. Again, the preliminary intersection design and cost estimates is what we'd be expecting from everybody. We do have an add-alt in there for environmental analysis should the FHWA kick that back. We have submitted it through the county and CDOT. I think we're looking for just a CADX on that. Whenever we hear back on that, we'll let you know.
Submitted preliminary stuff through the county.
Yes.
And to add alternates, answering whatever kind of feedback we get.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and we included the environmental scoping form at the end of the RFP as well. So feel free to look through that, and should anything come back, we'll be doing this. Our anticipated schedule, looking for an inquiry deadline on the 7th. We'll have responses by the 12th. Looking for proposals due 3 p.m. on the 21st. And then looking to get a contract approval by our June 2nd council meeting. That could get pushed just depending on contract negotiations, stuff like that. And then the ideal scope completion would be this December. Trying to move kind of fast here. I'd like to eventually get a shovel on the ground next year if possible. A few considerations is the whetstone project that's happening across from Brush Creek. They're doing some offsite utility work where they're tying into our sewer as well as our water. The water should not be an issue in this project, but the sewer will be. There's going to be a manhole pretty much right on the edge of where this proposed roundabout's going to be.
Based on the preliminary picture that you saw there of the roundabout, we tried to orientate the whetstone utility infrastructure into those green spaces, those triangles where we could. But we understand, hopefully we don't have to move this too much and we can kind of keep this orientation and this layout so that it aligns with those utilities.
Which quadrant would the whetstone utilities really be impacted? Just curious.
It's just sewer.
Just, well,
Sewer is all they're tying in.
okay.
So right there on 7th Street, and it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can highlight that with your
Thank you.
on the road itself.
No, it's down a little bit right there to your right. Just up, you can actually see it in the road there. That's the manhole that they're tying into.
Got it.
They'll basically almost cut perpendicularly across the 135 traffic flow. Over, yeah, right there into right where her arrow is right now. And then their utility is gonna run up the west side of the 135 right of way.
Okay.
All the way. There are a considerable amount of gas utilities also right there, just to be aware of.
Sounds good.
So
That little shed that's off to the left right there is the exchange station between the high pressure gas main that, who is it now? Synergy.
Is it?
It's not Atmos.
No, Excel.
XL, thank you. Where XL transitions off and Atmos takes over ownership. So Atmos distributes from that building too. So there's a couple distribution lines from them as well as the high pressure gas main from XL.
Regarding utilities, can we ask questions now? Or you
yeah,
want to?
go ahead.
For the Sioux, are y'all wanting us to include, I know there's no fee associated with this right now, but do you want us to make sure we have the right team together to do test holes at this time?
You need to do what you need to do to kind of accommodate CDOT
Okay.
specs as it pertains to the Sioux.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point, if anyone online has questions as well, feel free to throw them out. We'll start answering what we can. Once we can't answer right now, we'll jot down and we'll get to you at the. Well,
It looked like in the RFP, there was a want to just do some traffic analysis verification on the roundabout design and operations, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I think part of that too, looking at the interplay of the roundabout with the three-way intersection on Bellevue, just to the north.
Okay.
To verify that. Does anyone online have any questions?
In the RFP, it said that selected consultant will lead the town through the property acquisition and negotiations. So So I mean, I definitely get, getting the right of way pinned down and what is needed. And I'm just wondering about that as far as the timing. So are you wanting by the end of the year to actually have acquired and purchased the additional right of way that's needed, or?
I think that would be the ideal situation. We understand that sometimes that's just not the case.
Right.
We'd just like to be set up into a position where we're gonna be ready to at least pull the trigger on that.
That's good.
Coming straight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
I think, right, December 12th is there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
So, December 12th is our want date.
Yep.
We potentially understand that there may be factors that are out of our control
Everybody's control.
that have to come after that date.
Sure.
So we'll be willing to work with the consultant on that, so.
I understand that the ideal situation is that Crested Butte and RFP from the RFP would prefer to quitclaim some of that property to CDOT that needs to be acquired with the roundabout. Are there any other owners that could cause significant issues with, if developing design, there's a larger footprint that would require additional right of ways? Are there any, like,
You've got the Old Town Inn, which is there on that top left. Ideally, we would prefer not to touch their property. The way it's drawn right now is we're still within our right of way, I believe. Shay, you can correct
Yes.
me if I'm-
Yes, we are.
That green space on the top of the picture is ours. That's a town park property.
Yeah.
And then, to the bottom right is the school.
But at this point, I think everything that we're showing in this initial proposal is not encroaching. You can see the school's property line to the south of that little spur.
Yeah.
There. So at this time, we're proposing basically to utilize the existing red lady for that portion of it.
It's, Kimley Horn did the original design on this. Are they excluded from pursuing this going forward? Are they part of this?
They have not been excluded. They have every opportunity to be here just like you guys do.
Just checking.
What was the concept of just going to 60% and not to final construction as opposed to? So I'm assuming, right, so this project's done 60% and then there's gonna be another RFP to construction, so.
Yeah, I think the idea was at that point is when we would try to get CDOT involved.
Gotcha.
And bring them, our understanding of the project so far is that we're paying for this ourselves and, as well as the school. So we get the design, bring it to CDOT, allow them to come in and say, hey, we need to make these changes. And
Right.
then at that point, we could go to construction.
Is there, hey, this is Dylan online. Is there any thought to the Halazon ditch? Will there be any realignments? Anything like that going underneath the road?
Think that would be part of the scope of this project, Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. I think it would be identifying those conflicts where they are and then, determining what our course of action is and what the cures are. I don't, if we can actually get through this entire project without moving an existing utility, I'll be really amazed. So this is just the entrance of town. This is where all the utilities come into town. It's gonna be crowded, it's gonna be packed. And it's getting more crowded by every year that we go on. So I think there are gonna be those instances and we're gonna have to work through and navigate, solutions.
Shay, could you talk about the alignment of the Halazon ditch, just so everyone's familiar with it?
And actually, I don't, the Halazon ditch does not come through this footprint. It does a 90-degree turn to the northeast of this intersection, Dylan.
Yeah.
So the only town utilities that are within this footprint are sanitary sewer, It's running along Red Lady Avenue and crosses Red Lady. I believe there is at least one existing manhole that is within the roundabout footprint, if not two. So we have a sanitary sewer. We also have storm water. There is a very unengineered box in the northwest corner, right off of the Old Town Inn, that collects surface water, and then it ties into the underground pipe that runs along the west side there. That pipe daylights just south of Red Lady on the west side. And then it's an open ditch until it gets well below the area that we're talking about here. I foresee us needing to pipe a portion of that open ditch out of this project, for sure. There's some smaller, just like culverts, like a culvert underneath Red Lady on the east side. But it's simply just a culvert. Outside of that, there will be irrigation, like park irrigation, most likely in that northeastern quadrant, that we'll have to manage. Then it's gas and electric are the two big things. No water in this area at all. Electric's really on the east side. Gas is on the west side.
The RFP mentioned, when you mentioned drainage report kind of thing, and then it discussed detention. Is there going to be any specific detention requirement?
Nope, I think, again, this is really up to you guys to kind of ascertain what level of, if we do need some kind of detention because we have a capacity issue somewhere.
Right.
So that's really up to you guys to make that determination. The town does not have an interest per se in installing some kind of pond here to detain water.
Okay.
If it's a necessity of the project, then yeah.
What about, aesthetics inside the circle? Like, is there a group working on that or plan, or like just something we kind of know, like, hey, we're leaving an area, or does it need water or,
I think,
electricity or things like that?
I think that would maybe be the area to get public input on. The transportation plan really called for, and one of the reasons we were able to really get this across the finish line as a concept was to make more of a gateway feel. So I think, but we also don't want to like overdo it, and we're really focused on trying to keep our rough edges. And so I don't think things like lighting and things, but I think that would be something we'd want to work on with input. Originally, there was always a thought to put that knight and dragon sculpture in the middle. That could still be a consideration, or this welcome to Crested Butte sign with maybe some gardens and things, but I think that's still to be determined. But we want something that really is like, welcome to Crested Butte, slows people down. You're here in town now, but nothing like over the top crazy.
That being said, we do want the mountable apron for larger trucks.
Yes, and
That needs to be pretty.
and the RTA buses is really important, that, to be able to accommodate that.
And then, since we're talking about those things, snow.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. This is gonna be our first roundabout, so please prove me wrong that this will work in our community. Like, I'm serious, like, I have very significant concerns around the little triangles and the approaches coming in and being able to maintain line of sight. So I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we're designing the curbs and the angles of those curbs so that it will facilitate snowplow operations, and how we manage things. So I think that's something that, please keep that in mind while we're working through this project. I'll be harping on it constantly.
One question I have, speaking larger trucks, with this being a state highway, kind of the end termini, CDOT considerations, is the expectation that WB 67s can get through the roundabout at least on 135? I'm assuming you don't hear about them being under red lady so much, but the large semis, just from a state requirement.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
I do assume.
Again, the state highway continues actually all the way through to the four-way.
That's what I thought.
So,
Okay.
and at this point in time, there's been no conversations about us taking ownership of this or anything like
Okay.
that with CDOT specifically. So I know there's been some random conversations with us internally. But nonetheless, I would say that, again, as we've kind of articulated in this document, we're really wanting this design to parallel CDOT standards. So if that's their requirement, then yes, we need to mandate it.
Okay.
Low boys are gonna come through here regardless. Right, there is heavy equipment, significant amount of heavy equipment making its way up to the mountain. With all the construction that's been going on, so
Perfect.
anticipate that.
Want to verify. Thank you.
And with that, we accommodate a low boy, I don't think this will be an issue, but I imagine school buses will come in and out of all these legs, so yeah, ensuring that the design is not just accommodates, but is also designed for efficient and safe travel. But
Yes,
Yes.
as well as pedestrian buses too. I think, there's always been a conversation around the expansion of our bus system, within the town and making its way over to the east side there. So I think we need to incorporate that thought in this design for future.
In Mountain Express, they currently use school buses, but they are exploring in the long term going to like low floor transit buses. But the idea is with the roundabout, they could actually make that turn, the left turn onto Red Lady and leverage the school parking lot as like a potential park and ride or intercept lot and better serve the east side of town. But the RTA, the commuter bus from Gunnison to Crescent will come through here every day, multiple times a day, and we really want to make sure it's comfortable for their passengers.
I mean, not bouncing their head off the glass when they go.
I think we had a question online. Tori, do you wanna?
Yeah, thanks. In the RFP, there's multiple mentions of the underpass at this roundabout. I don't want to assume, so I just wanted to ask exactly where you guys were thinking that underpass was located. I think I know, but wanted to ask.
Yeah, there's no underpass. I think that
No
was,
underpass.
there was an alternative option at one point. That we had floated, but I don't think we ever wanted to move forward with that option.
Okay,
I
so
think-
no underpass.
Brush Creek was in.
Yeah, I think the Brush Creek intersection definitely is looking at an underpass, but we're not looking at that with this.
Okay.
What about pedestrian in general? See, by the old town in, there's the crossing, and I know you guys have been trying to not let school children use this intersection. I assume that's still the concept is bringing them down 8th Street, but what kind of pedestrian crossing is desired in here? Because nothing's really shown in the schematic.
And I think we'd love to increase safe pedestrian crossings at this intersection. So like, I think we'll still have conversations, do we gear the safe route for school in one area? But the more we can increase those crossings, the better. That was kind of what was identified in the transportation plan.
But I think we want to be really thoughtful about the safety.
Yeah.
And factor and our ability to do that. And so as we refine this design, I think those conversations will start to naturally follow and we'll be able to understand you know, where we can have safe pedestrian crossings and where we can't.
Right.
You know, I would assume that these lanes will be modified to some degree here through this design. So to say right now what we want, I don't think we know what we want. I would say for sure that crossing there on the north side is something that we're gonna wanna try to maintain. But again, we spoke to the interaction between this roundabout and the Bellevue intersection too. So we wanna understand that and what those two pieces, how they interact together before we decide if there should be a pedestrian access or is the safest pedestrian access at Bellevue.
Okay, so essentially that's part of the scope, is determining that. RFP at one point mentioned that you anticipated a lump sum. I didn't go through draft yet, but anticipate lump sum, and then another spot talks about CDOT's cost plus fixed fee. Is there?
That would have been an oversight. It should just be lump sum.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Anything else?
Got one last question. I know we kind of discussed the general location of this roundabout, wanting to remain, just with all the 5 legs we're dealing with. But in terms of the geometry shown, is the town expecting us to kind of run with the due diligence that was already done, or is there room to kind of relook at some of these, turn lanes and some geometry associated with it?
Yeah, I don't think we're married to this geometry. Ideally, Dylan, we want to keep the 5 legs. But yeah, the chosen firm is free to, consider different geometries.
And I think one of the biggest factors with that is one of the environmental clearances on the park side. And I'm gonna destroy the acronym. I think it was 4. Yeah.
Yep.
So if we get bad news back on that front, we may have to reorientate this or remove the 5th leg from this roundabout. So absolutely, I think through this design process, there may be design components that change.
When you say the 5th leg, you mean 7th Street?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it'd be really
Yeah.
ideal to keep that as part of this and
Yes.
connected, but
Absolutely.
It makes it kind of a
If
pain
we-
for traffic movements if you have to just tie it into the,
It also affords us the ability to have alternate detour routes through town if we have access to 7th Street. So yes, as Mel said, this is our preferred kind of idea, but if 7th Street has to go away, so be it.
If during this preliminary schedule, this timeline, if, things develop and y'all realize that you might not be able to construct the entire roundabout in, say, one season, would y'all expect as part of this contract for the consultant to do any, traffic control design or recommendations, or would you prefer to move that into the next phase?
I think we can move that into the next phase.
Okay.
Talking about construction, is the town? Do you have a preference on saying that bituminous or concrete surfacing within the roundabout or your driving lanes?
Well, cost is a concern.
Yep.
So I think that answers the question.
Fair
I
enough.
agree.
I just.
But at the same time,
Factors in and-
we need to make sure that we're designing this appropriately to stand the test of time, and to stand our environmental conditions. So, if the recommendation is that we move towards a concrete type treatment rather than an asphalt treatment, then I think we'll consider that. But I think we want to be cognizant of costs.
Perfect.
do you know when Whetstone's breaking ground?
They already did.
They already did.
Not down here. They're anticipating coming down, and making this connection sometime in late June. But they also came and said that they were gonna do it in April 1 first, and they're still
Up
doing
there,
stuff down
yeah.
there. Or up there, so,
Yeah.
that's just really a tentative schedule.
I was thinking timing and pursuit. That's what I was saying, so.
We can provide civil drawings for Whetstone.
That'd be awesome.
All of that kind of stuff, we can totally provide. We'll provide all of our GIS information, obviously, and anything else we have for that matter. So, We should have utility information on the Red Lady main. We do not have any information on the stormwater.
Okay.
I'll just tell you that right now.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, we are, so I think we have one last question. You kind of touched on it earlier, but just to clarify, so of course, in this scope would be, design scope review with CDOT and probably, I'm assuming FIR review. But I'm also assuming that FOR is after this contract, right?
We're still navigating some of those things.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Can we get back with you on that specific question?
Sure.
Gonna include the sign-in sheet and an addendum for this meeting to include minutes.
Okay.
Think so.
Anybody online? Take the silence as a no. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I do appreciate your interest in the project and look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks for your
being
time.
here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.